Hello, BookTube, and welcome to week 2 of New Worlds November. This week, it's robots and AI. Last week was aliens, and I read a few more alien short stories. I didn't get around to posting anything yesterday because it was quite late, and so it was actually Monday by the time I sort of finished with a few stories. I was reading, I got sort of the Simak bug and started reading a few stories from the best of Clifford D. Simak. This is Sedgwick and Jackson, the UK edition. It was originally published, let's see, first published in 1975 in the UK. And it's a number of short stories, and there's a few with aliens and a few not. And then I read Beachhead out of here, Beachheads in Space, edited by August Derleth. Lovely cover there. And other ones, it's Weidenfeld and Nicholson. Science fiction series. This was published in the UK in 1954, originally published in 1952 in the United States. So this is the first British edition. So, and yeah, Beachhead is a nasty little story in some ways from humans landing on a planet and making a beachhead, basically. And sort of analyzing the flora and fauna, including any aliens, and there are aliens in that one. But this week, it's robots. For the most part, I'll be reading robot short stories, and I'll do a slight TBR at the end. Now, I read a humorous Clifford Simak story to do with robots. It's called How-2. And it was published in Galaxy Science Fiction in November 1954. And it's a story. It's a bit of a product of its time. Many Clifford Simak stories and a lot of science fiction writers will use things that are sort of contemporary at the time and put them into their stories, some more successfully and others, and some subtly. But in the 1950s, there were a couple things that were going on, obviously. One of the things was this craze for sort of a do-it-yourself type thing, and hobbies and that kind of thing, of getting kits to build things. So he took that and progressed with it for a science fiction story. And we don't get a date that the story is set, but we do find out that it is a future 200 plus years in the future, because at one point, they talk about that everybody has a 15-hour week. So they work the main character works three days, 5 hours a day. And he lives on a palatial sort of estate land outside of the city. And he flies some kind of air vehicle. It's not described. And that was another thing that was sort of thought of, like the helicopter and autogyro and and other conveyances like that, thought that, people would be using it as a car. So he extrapolated that, and along with sort of the idea in city where people left the cities and they're living in the country. So the character lives in the country with his wife, and he has a son who's away at college. And he has hobbies, and his wife has hobbies, and that seems to be the thing that people have, are hobbies. And they build things. He built, he gets instructions, do-it-yourself building of a house. So he kept building on rooms. So he's got like a eight-bedroom house. And he keeps wanting to work on the estate. It's 100 acres. He's got a bit of a lake, a pond, and he wants to do some landscaping. You think he might do that, and but he wants to have a dog, and his wife doesn't like the fact of having a dog that will, hair everywhere, and it'll be dirty and smelly. So he orders a mechanical. Well, it's partial mechanical and it's partly bio. So there is a biological element to the dog that he orders. He comes home from work. He can't wait to get home, and there's a crate waiting for him that's been delivered. It's very heavy. He doesn't quite know what it is, but he opens it up, gets it into his basement, and he opens it up, and he finds it's not a dog, it's a robot. A full-size robot. And the receipt says one dog, paid in full to the How-2 do-it-yourself company, whatever. And he goes, well, he's got to send this back, but he decides not to. And he wants to put it together. He's never built a robot before, and he doesn't think he'll ever be able to get the chance because they're very expensive. So he puts it together, and he turns the switch on, basically. And the robot's name is Albert. So he figures, well, I'll just keep him for a while, a month or so, and he can do a few chores around the house. And his wife has everything set up for him as well, to say that he can clean and vacuum and stuff. But the trick is that they sell the robots, but then they sell attachments that they can put on to do various tasks. So he hasn't got any attachments. So what's he going to do? But Albert says, don't worry, boss. I'll figure it out. I'll make some, there's enough stuff around here I can do. I can solve it for you. We can do some landscaping and everything too. So it turns out that Albert actually can make robots. So he's in the basement in the sort of tool shop area that Jenkins has. I believe that's his name, Jenkins. Yes, I think so. But anyway, he builds other robots, and as Albert says, he's got the mothering instinct, and they don't know why. He doesn't know why they called him Albert. He should have had a female name. So he's a little perturbed at that, but he's got the urge to reproduce. So he continues reproducing, getting more material, and he makes all sorts of robots. It winds up he's made like 50 some robots that do everything. Like they start landscaping, but then all of a sudden, Inland Revenue rears its ugly head and come in and say, oh, you've got capital gains. You've got to pay taxes on these capital gains. How did you get all the money for this? This is like $500,000 worth of robots, and you make $10,000 a year. How can you afford this? And then all of a sudden the How-2 company comes and says, well, you got to give us back the robot. It's ours. And, but they can't prove it's sort of his because Albert was smart. What he did was he filed off the serial number and replayed it himself so they don't know who he is. And he thinks that's solved things, but they're still suing. But Jenkins, he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any money to sort of do a court case or even pay for the raw materials that Albert's been ordering. So Albert says, "Don't worry, boss, we'll take care of that." So they print up money. They analyze some bills and they analyze the ink. They make plates. They make a printing press, and they start printing up fives and tens and $50 bills. And he says, well, we didn't bother with $1 bills because it was it takes too many of those. So he's got several bales of this money that he figures is probably $1 million or several $1 million. And but he tells oh no, I can't use this, it's counterfeit. But then again, it's perfect. But no, he can't use it. So he tells Albert and the robots to burn it all, destroy it, and Albert does. But he gets taken to court for this. And his neighbor, his friend, is a lawyer, a lazy lawyer, but he's got a few hobbies himself. He makes wine, dandelion wine, and cider. Makes cider as well. And he's got lots of books. He collects law books, but he never really uses them. Um, but then Albert comes over while they're talking about the case and what's going to happen. Albert says, "Well, I know what I'll do. I'll make some lawyer robot. I'll make some lawyer robots, and they'll be telepathic, so they can learn everything." But it's like, well, they're not humans, so they can't. They don't have no standing as a lawyer. But then they figure, oh, they can be assistants and give them information. Oh yeah, that'll work. So they go to court and they get the robots to be assistants. And the big case is that, that he never stole anything from the How-2 company because the robots are actually, they have rights because they should have rights. So this is the case, and it gets all media exposure and everything like this. And it goes on for quite a while. And while this is going on, Albert is cautious. He thinks that, well, he's going to prepare things, so they put a big barricade around the property, with surface to air missiles he builds and everything. So in case everything goes bad and they try to storm the place, and he won't go down, he'll go down fighting. It's better to die. But it's hard to kill a robot, he says. And then in the meantime, he made all his children that he's made. He names them with an A, like he's Albert, and then he makes Alfred, and just any A name, and then he starts making some daughters. Bertha, Alberta, and all sorts of names, and he endows them with being able to. He builds six. Female robots that can reproduce as well. So they're off and going. They get a whole bunch of money, and he wins the case. They win the case. So robots are free now, and. And but he says, "Hey, boss, we'll take care of you. We'll start a lawyer company, and we'll make lots of money, and we'll take care of you. You don't need to do anything at all." And then it sort of ends going, no, I don't have to do anything. It's a humor story, and I just love it. And because it's sort of like, you get hobbies, but he like, the whole idea is that he goes from hobby to hobby. He gets tired of one, he goes to another hobby. And then now it's like, the robots are going to take care of him. He doesn't need to do anything. The idea was that, the shorter hours over 200 years, it kept dwindling down because, like, 200 years ago it was 40 hours a week, then 100 years ago it was 30 hours, and then, now it's 15 hours. But now he doesn't have to work at all, but now he's got to fill up more time, and he's sort of a little despondent of that, of where it ends. And yeah, I just love it, and it was adapted. Well, actually, a producer, a theater producer, approached Simak to do a play for this, and it opened in Detroit. It was panned. It was called How to Make a Man, I think it was called, and then it opened on Broadway. It was panned as well. They just called it, comic book. Trash, and Buck Rogers trash. So it didn't work, but it was also adapted for a fabulous radio program for X-1 on NBC in 1955, I think it was. Well, anyway, I'll leave a link below for if you want to listen to How-2 from X-1. But it's just a lovely story. It's one of the ones like Simak has a nice sense of humor, and you see this through it. But he's also talking about society and other things like this, and the way he treats the robots. The robots are very human, and that's the one thing that runs through for the most part most of Simak's robots. And he doesn't rely on the fact like Isaac Asimov with the three laws. Those are sort of implicit and they're there, but they're not really spelled out. And the robots have a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion, and are loyal. Especially in City. Jenkins in City is extremely loyal to the Websters. Anyway, that's a different matter. But then, yeah. So that was today's robot story that I read, and I had to read it on a ebook because it was in the complete science fiction stories of Simak. This is volume 1, and it's volume 10 that How-2 is in. And he, like, yes, Simak received $600 for the story. It looks like according to his journals. But yeah, for the TBR for the week is another Simak story that I'm reading is All the Traps of Earth. That's in volume 1 here. And also to another robot story called iRobot, but not that iRobot, this iRobot that's in this collection. It's in many collections. It's by Eando Binder. It's a pseudonym for two brothers, and it was originally published in Amazing Stories in 1939. It's part of a series. I'll get to that when I do the video for the story. This is published in, I've shown this before, it's Editor's Choice in Science Fiction, compiled by Sam Moskowitz, the McBride Company, 1954. And it's basically, he went to the editors of the magazines and said, give me a story. Let the editors choose the best story to be given. So that's that one. And for my book to film, I might do another Simak story or so during the week. It depends. But my book to film is going to be more AI. It's going to be 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, I'm cheating a bit, but it is a novel, but it's just under 250 pages in here. This is the Orbit edition of 2001, because and I'm slightly cheating for my book to film, because this was written along with the film. It's not wasn't based on the film wasn't based on this. It was sort of done at the same time. However, there was a short story called The Signal, and that's in the complete stories of Arthur C. Clarke, and it's called The Sentinel. I haven't read that in a long time, but I don't think it really has anything to do with AI, but I'm going to read it as part of this and then see where it developed into the film. But obviously the AI bits are in here in the story and the film with Hal. So yeah, and tomorrow I hope to be able to do another potted history of robots and a bit of AI mixed in for history. So yeah, so there we go. The start of week 2 of New Worlds November. And do check out the other, just put in search New Worlds November or hashtag New Worlds November, and you should pull up a lot of videos by the co-hosts as well as others that are joining in. And I hope some of you are joining in. And if you are, what robot stories do you have planned to read this week? I'd love to hear. And have you read any of the stories that I've mentioned, especially How-2? I will leave a link, as I say, down below for the X-1 radio program that's on YouTube. And give it a listen. It's just under 29 minutes, and it's a hoot. It's a hoot. It's really funny. It's pretty close to the story. There are some changes, but they're very minor. They're very minor. It's a very good adaptation. Anyway, take care, BookTube, and I'll see you next time.